Today's video is one I've been wanting to do for a little while. I'm calling it a tale of two Maldens. And the reason I have two Maldens is one has rings and one has strings. So one is the traditional Malden that comes as is with the ring binder, and one has been de-ringed, meaning we've removed the rings and put in elastics, much like a traveler's notebook. So I'm gonna get into that. The Filofax Maldens is a fan favorite for a reason. The leather's beautiful. The color I have here is soft ochre, and I had to look up how to say that because I was saying okra, like the vegetable, and it's ochre like earth, which is a perfect name for these because they have a beautiful brown tan color. It really is a nice color, very nice leather. It ages beautifully, shows character, as I like to say. And let me open her up and then you can see the differences. So this is in personal size, which is just under 4x7. And here's the one with rings. The inserts for these are personal. So I'm going to show you this one in this video, which is going to be DIYfish and how I use the bullet journal system for work. And I'm going to compare later to a second video, which is the de-ringed version. And hopefully you can see I've got elastics in here. I have notebooks in here, so let me see if you can see that. And I have 4 elastics. I think I have 6 notebooks in here right now. And the difference you can see already in the sizes. Let me show you the difference in the paper size. So let me flip to July. Like, can you see, this is more of a B6 5x7 notebook, and this is the personal 4x7. So you gain an inch with the ringless elastics. Okay, so we're going to start off with this one, and I have in here Filofax dividers for monthly. This is the month on 2 pages. You don't have to buy that. I'm going to get into DIYfish, which also comes with the month on 2 pages. This is a page marker. I bought this from Etsy, My Paper Love Studio, and I actually got the week one too, but I'm not sure how to use it because you'll see in a minute why. And this is DIYfish. And this is version 3, style number 1. And if you go to Etsy and you spend some time on DIYfish, you'll see they've got life mapping systems. That's what they call it, life mapping inserts, LMI. And the best tips I can give you are go to the DIYfish blog and spend some time and do some reading, because they have a couple of tips on their abbreviations, like month on 2 pages, MO2P, day on 2 pages, DO2P, 2 days per page, 2DPP. Like, there's just some things that you might want to check out on the blog. And the biggest tip I can give you about ordering DIYfish is that it's color coded on Etsy. So I ordered personal, which is blue. And I don't like printing DIYfish. So I actually had to print this a couple of times for the video. I'm going to show you, I have blanks in here right now, and I only have 6 months in here. And you can fit a whole year. I have all the other inserts already printed. So I've printed and cut the other 6 months starting January 2017 forward. I just haven't put them into the Filofax, although I do have room. That was one of my first questions. I didn't know if the Filofax could hold the full year, and it can. It's just going to be very tight. As you can see, this is 6 months, and I do have the Filofax dividers in here, so that's a little extra bulk, but it can do the whole year. It's just going to be tight. And I will say there's people on the DIYfish blog that print and cut this stuff for you if that is of interest to you, if you don't want to do it yourself. All right, so I printed these a couple of times because I can't share my clients' information. I started a new contract in June, and I have non-disclosure agreements in place. So what I did here was show you what it looks like. This is version 3, style 1, without dailies. I do not have any daily pages in here. Okay, I washi the binder part for just reinforcement so it doesn't rip easily. It just kind of helps a little bit for stability. And I kind of color coded to be festive the months. If you flip through them, you'll see, let's see, October has some really pretty golds. November, I think I have some browns in here, grays, and of course Christmas, we've got some pretty colors. Got to make it a little bit fun. But I have a blank one in here now, and what I'll just explain as we go. So first things first, if you pull out the fold out chart, you get my monthly chart. And hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to zoom, and I have this blown up and large so you can see it better when I show you how I use it. The back side of that is the calendar. And then you've got space to write in, how you choose, and I'll show you how I use it. You've got notes pages and different grid paper they gave us as part of DIYfish when you print, which is pretty cool. And then I've got the week on 2 pages and also a smaller weekly chart. Okay, so that's DIYfish version 3, style 1, without dailies. And I printed blank with the intent that I was going to show you in the book how I use it, and I thought that was a little bit hard to read, so I enlarged it. But before I get into that, I'll just say that I do keep a key of my bullet journaling in a couple of places. You probably saw this on my team notebook if you saw that video. Same team, same color coding system, and I have some information on how I track issues and what I do for meetings, sort of a checklist. So issues are identified, assigned, documented, they get resolved, or they get escalated, and ultimately documented, becomes posted and distributed at some point. And meetings, not all meetings go through this process. This is like a formal meeting. I would reserve the room with the admin, check the room capacity. There's nothing worse than having 100 people invited to a meeting that has seats for 20. Invites sent, agenda prepared. Sometimes they have to be approved. Roles. Sometimes I have timekeepers in the room if it's like back-to-back meetings and I want to make sure they end on time, start on time, end on time. Timekeeper, a note taker who will do the parking lot items, a flip chart, and also minutes, and of course a facilitator. There's a presentation involved usually. Sometimes that has to get approved. Sign-in sheets for big important meetings, if they're decision meetings and we want to remember who was there, and work with the admins if we're ordering food. Food always helps set the mood. And minutes after the meeting. And I'll show you how that routine kind of comes into play. And you probably saw from the other video, I love these key cards, and I just stocked up on them. I found some more, so you'll see these in a few videos. But this is my key to how I use bullet journaling. And I credit the founder of bullet journaling is Ryder Carroll. You can check out bulletjournal.com. You can check out Boho Berry. I think Kara has done a phenomenal job in bringing awareness to how to bullet journal and all the different variations, and I think that's really helpful and inspiring. I'm really basic, so I have just a couple of key little items here. There's a task and it's a dot. If it's important, I'll star it. Canceled, I'll cross it out, but not cross through the words. I just cross out the little dot. And what's nice is if you do a dot, you can X and not need to cross out the words. Same thing with completed, and I'm going to go back to that in a second. Migrated, I do a little arrow, so if I'm not doing it in the month that I thought and I'm pushing it out to the next month, I'll migrate the task and just put it as like it was deferred. And if there's something I'm researching or I had a question on, I might just make a note on that, particularly if it's something that I'm taking time to research, if I have to work with other teams and those kind of things. So that's a little bit of my bullet journal key. Going back to completed, a lot of times I do just check it off, but sometimes I'll get a little bit quote unquote fancier and I'll put like, E for like I sent the email, or, C, I called together some people, conference called, or, I'll play with that a little bit, but check off is fine. So you can see how basic you can keep that if you like. And I think it's a good idea to have, just different keys. Here's just the whole thing. If you want to screenshot and tip sheet for yourself, you can see how I did it here. I know I had it in a couple places, and I know some people like to screenshot and kind of use it for their own work. Okay. So that's my key. Let me put that to the side. Let's get into DIYfish. So we'll use the page marker. I love that thing. And I love how festive July. That was just not planned. It's cute. So I'm going to show you how I use the system specifically. I'm going to hop around a little bit in the book. So the first thing I use is actually, here we go. I go here, and you see these boxes here? You can use them however you like, of course. But generally what I do is I have objectives and milestones. So write out, I say what I want to accomplish in the month. And this is my personal notebook. I showed the team one already, like I mentioned. You might think it's odd to have 2 notebooks for work, but the team might see an invite to a meeting, whereas I'm the one doing all the tasks to get ready for that meeting and pull together the vendor and whatever I have to do. So I lay out the objectives and the milestones, and that's here in this book. Okay, so objectives, finalize scope, team formation, training, kickoff, whatever it is, and then as you complete them and you get these milestones done, maybe the scope signed off and staffing model complete, maybe they needed to certify, and if you did a successful kickoff, good things, you want to put that there. So the next place I go is the calendar. Okay, so I blew that up here, and let me tell you what I'm using here. I can grab it. So I have on here task and due dates, as well as some important calendar appointments. So I don't try to build my entire Outlook into this, but if there's something important that happened, like an important meeting, like a kickoff, that would go on here. But also I'm putting, like, if there's something due, like a certain workflow, or there's important meetings that I want to track, maybe this is the first time I'm meeting that team, that goes on there. And then if there's anything recurring, like if I have a weekly meeting about risks, that goes on there. If the status reports due every Friday, that goes on there. And I'm coloring it in with Colettos. Colettos look like this. You've seen the little, I have a couple of them. But you get the little ink and you put them into the holder. These are reusable, and you can also just use, of course, like a typical Bic. And I think this takes a little bit of setup that I think is unforgiving. If people who love Colettos can forgive me for saying that. I mean, once you get them in right, they're perfect, but this is definitely easy and readily available anywhere. So pick and choose. You can also use, I have the Pentax here. This is a pencil. And what I like is it has yellow, because one of my teams is yellow and I didn't have ink for yellow. So anyway, pick and choose how much color you want to use. The bullet journal system that Carol envisioned was very simple. So not gussied up with washi tape and stickers and color, really. He kept it pretty plain. So all of that is optional. So that's the calendar. We've got through that page. I also should mention that over here you'll see you have a notes page, and I use that in a couple of different ways. I use it notes, and if I'm going to be migrating anything, a task or an event, like say the vendor was going to be on site and they moved it to the following month, I might make a note here just to call it out. I also have a place for future planning here as well. Like I'll use that sometimes, but like I said, I have Filofax dividers, so I have some options because I have a leading page for future planning. And if you saw my Lime Life planner, I did the same thing with my bill tracker. I always have a leading page before the calendar for future planning, meaning if I know I have to do something in August, I would put it August to do. Okay. So with that, let's get into the weeklies. Okay, that's right here. And what that looks like for me, this is where I live mostly in this. So here's an example. Again, more bullet journaling. I'm putting my tasks. If I want to, I could put color for the teams, which I typically do because I have the Colettos with me and it's very straightforward to do that. And then if there's anything recurring that I want to make a note of, it's a little bit redundant from what you just saw, but the truth is I live here. Like basically this matches up against the calendar. So the calendar is going to give me the overall monthly view, and the weekly is just what I'm doing on a day-to-day. So I'm going to hop around just one thing on you. Sorry if this is a little flippy, but you also have a monthly chart, and here is basically how I use that. This is really, again, very in line with what a typical bullet journal style might look like. Very plain and simple. And what I have here are my tasks, like the big tasks. So if there's some kind of event, like a kickoff, it would make it to the monthly chart. And then I would track that, the room was reserved and the agenda was done, the invites were sent, the presentation done, the sign-off sheets printed, food if we were doing that, the day of is starred, and then the minutes go out that Friday. So that's a nice example of a routine for a kickoff. But I leave room at the top always for future planning and also any recurring. So, risk issues kind of things, meetings, and status reports would go up here. And then I have the tasks. I do get a little bit quote unquote fancy in the boxes here. I know a lot of people just color them in, and you can certainly do that. And you can color code here as well, which is not a bad idea. You know, we all want to be visual. It helps to stay organized. It's also kind of fun, you know, if you want to add color to this. But I also, you can see I put some of my signifiers. You know, I've got little stars, and I've got, you know, an X if that's what I canceled, so on and so forth. So that's the monthly chart. I would say this is somewhat retrospective a lot of times. So I'm living in my weekly, and then as something's important, it gets added to the monthly. And the last thing I'm going to show you is right here, this little chart. See that? I blew it up for you. So here is that little weekly chart enlarged, and I couldn't see rewriting appointments or due dates or milestones, you know, any of that, because it was already in the other pages. So I'm just using this for a weekly stress chart. So it's kind of along the lines, you know, it looks like a level 10 life, but it's really along the lines of like a bar chart and kind of like a you know, hydration tracker I know people are doing. I'm tracking my stress at work, and I notice a theme, a trend, if you will, for myself. I tend to be a little bit more stressed on Mondays and a little less stressed on Fridays. I don't know if that's true for you, but I think it's good. You know, you want to stay, you know, somewhere downward of 5. I think it's a good place to be when you're at work. You know, there's always going to be work stress, but hopefully it doesn't wear you down or affect your health or get you crazy. All right, so that's my weekly stress. And that is how I'm using DIYfish. I went through that kind of fast. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Like and subscribe if you did. Thanks for watching, everyone. Ciao for now.